Well, folks, you just heard a track off Reason's brand new album, The Deception of Dreams, and it is a real pleasure to be joined once again on the show by Mr. Chris Gyngell. Thank you very much for coming back on the show to have a chat about the album, what the band's up to, etc.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, thank you very much for having me back. It's always nice to be asked back. Get asked once, that's one thing, but to be asked back, Lovely. Thanks very much. No, I really do appreciate it.
Well, let's face it, I think most people know pretty well what a big supporter of the band I am, because I'm a really big fan and love everything you guys have put out, and it's fantastic to finally get my hands on the new album.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry we kept you waiting so long. But,
yeah, I know, bloody hell.
It's the same old story, we sort of discussed a finished date, ready to go to press and radio, and we thought, we'll hit that easy. And, as things roll along, it always takes a little bit longer than you think, and next thing you know, you're sweating at the end. But, no, certainly no. We just about made a deadline, and I'm glad that it's finally got to you.
Well, for folks who are not aware of the, shall we say, the track listing and everything, obviously 3 tracks on the album will be familiar to people who obviously got themselves a copy of the EP, because obviously 3 tracks are on the new album.
Yeah, that's correct. Earlier this year, anybody that does follow the band will know that we released a digital 3-track EP called Beyond the Dark Horizon. And really the reason we did that was that we hadn't released anything for quite some time. It had been more than 2 years, and a lot of people had been sort of asking about, when are we going to do something else? And, it's keeping the name of the band out there really as much as anything. And they were really regarded, I think, as a preview to this album, But I'd like to say that, we've been remixing and remastering as well over the course of the year since that came out. So anybody who's heard that, please do still go and buy the album, because it's far better this time.
Well, even if nothing else, there's still another 6 tracks to listen to.
Yeah, well, that's it. This time it's a full-length album. I think it comes in about 51, 52 minutes, something like that, which is a little shorter than our first album, but it's a kind of different album. It's a bit of an evolution, I think, from the first one, but it still keeps the same band sound,
Well, one thing I would say, I've not had a chance to listen to it as many times as I would have liked this week. Trying to fit it in around listen to everything else, and trying to be sort of a bit fair that I couldn't just listen to the album. I would say, if one thing, without wanting to pigeonhole, because I've always said that you're a band that it's not particularly easy to pigeonhole for most people, because there's so many different sort of mixtures within the sound. It is a little bit more proggy than the first album.
Yeah, I think so. Anyone, again, who's familiar with our stuff will know that the first album was, I think there was a lot of anthemic songs with, a kind of a bit of a stadium rock feel then. More of a classic rock feel. I think perhaps that's gone by a little bit this time. We've still got the big melodic choruses and some big guitar riffs, but I think as a whole, the music moves around a little bit more, and it's slightly more up-tempo and energetic, things like drum patterns. Certainly the keyboard work is a lot more intricate this time, so we've introduced some different sounds, some slightly different textures there, and I think maybe the slightly more dreamy sounding songs have phased out a little bit more in favour of something that's a little bit more erratic in its feel. But yeah, you could certainly say it's slightly more proggy, that's for sure.
I think obviously there's always the problem of the second album, the infamous problem of the second album, and it's, what do you do? Do you do the first album part 2, or do you push the boundaries a bit? And I think that you guys have taken the right direction by pushing the boundaries from the original sound.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because I think that's, what we have tried to do. It's nice when, obviously, somebody with a discerning ear like yourself is going to pick that up. But I think it's a message I'd like to give to anyone who's interested in hearing it, is that it's about doing that, really, because we could have done a whole load of stuff that was very similar to the first album, but what we've tried to do is keep the identity of the band's sound, but keep on with, expanding the variety and sort of moving it around and seeing what we can do with it without going, out of context completely. And I think that's, certainly worked. It's, it's got some slightly different shades to it. So I hope people will find that interesting. I think they will. Well, here we are, it's there now, and we're quite confident about it. So let's see how it goes.
Obviously, as I brought up the last time you were on the show, obviously when we talked about the first album, The Darkest Star, obviously you've built up quite a decent fan base just off that first album alone. I mean, it got an awful lot of good reviews within the music press.
Yeah, I mean, some of them were surprising really to us, because we're very conscious that we are a band that operates on a very limited budget, so we really do record and produce everything ourselves. And you're always a little nervous when your stuff goes out there, because you think, well, whatever you do, you can't expect people to read your mind and see, the trouble you've had to get the thing produced. You're still going up against the big bands in effect, really. So to get, the feedback we had there was like immensely pleasing and really encouraging. And plus the reaction that we got from a lot of the listeners, the people who actually bought it. I guess so many people come back and say, oh, I really love that song, I really love that song, and that means so much, So obviously, it just encourages us. We're hoping that, this has the same effect. I sincerely hope so. And this time we've even mastered it ourselves. Just because we wanted to, really, and I'm very pleased with the results myself. I think it puts us in a really good light, and I hope we certainly will grow the fan base, and not alienate anyone who liked the first album, for sure.
Well, obviously, bringing up what comes after the mastering, so to speak. Obviously, after you guys signed to Skyfire Interactive for the PR side, obviously you guys are now part of Skyrocket Records as well.
Yeah, well, that's, an interesting story, really, but it comes from a lot of discussions this year about what we would do, and we had a really good time with Alienation, I mean, obviously we released the first album, our 3-track EP, and a single back in the summer, which was also just digital, but, I mean, a lot of people will know about that, called Heart Song. I mean, everything that we did with them was fine. We never had any issues at all. But really what swung it is that the distribution power, really, of Skyrocket is so much greater. And obviously we have to look to try to expand, and keep on moving upwards. So that provoked the decision. Plus, I mean, obviously we've got a very good relationship with Skyfire, everybody there. And, it feels nice to stick with people you know and trust. So, yeah, it's, quite a difficult thing, really, to move away from a situation where you've got no regrets. But, I think it'll be for the best,
Well, I mean, I'm fully familiar with the guys over at Alienation, obviously, having dealt with some of the other releases, and obviously the main man there is a chum of mine, so to speak. But as you say, things need to move on. You've got to, sort of chance your arm sometimes and look at how you can expand things out, because there is so much music out there. Sort of having the chance to stick your head above the parapet and let someone actually see you, so to speak, it's never an easy thing at the moment.
No, definitely not. I mean, the biggest challenge for a band in our situation is distribution, actually reaching larger numbers of people. It's easy to set yourself up, as so many bands do now, as an independent, self-sufficient unit, and produce your own music and have your social media pages and say, hey, we're great, everyone, and you'll pick up a few people like that, and it may be very genuine, but it's breaking out of that circle, unfortunately, which is incredibly hard to do, particularly if you don't have a budget, and I know that there's a lot of musician friends of mine and other guys who might listen to this who's going to agree with that, because, it's also a matter of how you're perceived,
Yeah.
To a degree, I think the social media circuit is become a little bit sort of kind of tarred with a certain label that it's, oh well, it's just social media, which is a shame, because for most of us, we may not have any option, at least to start with. So you're always looking for ways to try to raise the profile, any way possible. And I know within the camp here, we've got a lot of belief in the music that we produce. We think it's worth it. So we just, keep trying. It's that straightforward, and we'll keep on working at it as best we can, as long as we can,
I think it's interesting the point you brought up there, saying about credibility, because anybody can set up a Facebook page, and what does that prove? It doesn't really prove a lot about anything.
No, it's the easiest thing in the world as well to go up there and say, oh yeah, we get some nice graphics and we get this and that and the other, and we'll make ourselves look pretty professional. And that's all great, but you've also got to spend the time working on the music. And really and truly, when everything boils down, that's what you're going to rise or fall on. But it's very, very hard when the people telling the public how good you are is you, because of course they're all going to say, oh yeah, you're going to say that, aren't you? Whereas years ago you got signed to a record label, and I suppose perhaps it was seen that then you had a professional body or business who were prepared to put their name by you, and therefore would give you automatic credibility, So yeah, things have changed a lot.
Well, obviously you've seen both sides of the coin, Chris. Obviously going back through your history in the music industry, obviously you've seen the good and the bad long before this.
Yeah, well, that's right. I was sort of fortunate or unfortunate enough, I don't know, to have been involved in the old days when you did get given money by a record label to go out and make an album. I think the first time I did it, we were given something like £20,000. And we shopped around for a studio and ended up in Dublin for 3 weeks making an album, because it was just cheaper to record out there than it was in any of the big cities in England. So, but there was always a downside to it, that the money had to go back in the end.
Oh yeah. It's only borrowed.
There's pros and cons to it. Now it's nice to know that we start off not owing anybody anything. But you do have to look at how you can, present yourself and try to put yourself on a par with, the major acts, which is, you're still going to get judged against them at the end of the day. So, that is a really tough ask for guys in our position. But all you can do is just, be your best and go for it, really, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, obviously, budget constraints being what they are, what are you going to do regarding doing more live dates?
Well, live dates is an interesting one, particularly at the moment, because right at this very point in time, we don't have a drummer. Everything was recorded for the album when we have a drummer. We've actually got somebody to fill in some gaps as well, but at the moment, we're just about to start auditioning people, so there's a long road back, really, to us playing live. But of course, really a big part of it is what the album does for us. We're pinning our hopes on it to a large degree to raise the profile of the band. We certainly need to break out onto the professional live circuit next year, so that's really the mission. But we do have some tricks in hand, and everything's looking pretty good. We're going to line ourselves up and then hopefully be announcing something in the new year. So,
excellent. Well, Chris, all I can do is wish you the best of luck with this album. Obviously, as you know full well, I'm already sold on it. So, but guys, do go out and grab yourself a copy of this album. If you like the first album, then obviously you're going to like the second one, and probably. It's nice that you're going to explore it in a little bit of a different direction, if that makes sense to people out there. But put it this way, do support this band, because you've got to support British talent, because these are the guys who are keeping this music scene alive.
Well, that's amazing of you to say that. Thanks very much. And I said to somebody the other week, it's just amazing to be able to do another album for a start. We're always grateful to be here at all, and we hope that this proves that we're not just a one-album wonder. Probably proves that we're a 2-album wonder. I don't know. No, I'm joking. No. Our intention is to keep building. And there's certainly a lot of material coming through. And this is our up-to-date offering. I really think it will be popular. I've got confidence in it, and anybody who's heard us before and liked what we did, then, you know, please come and try this. And anybody who hasn't, then, you know, I think there's a lot of stuff in it, really. It's a big mix of all sorts of things. It doesn't ever seem to offend anybody's ear, you know, certainly not within the in the rock and metal circles. So, yeah, thanks, Dan, for guiding everybody.
I mean,
Really
I must point
appreciate
out
it,
one
all.
thing, Chris. Obviously, there is you're going to have a little bit of a wait because it's not actually out on sale to the general populace until, I believe, January the 26th.
That is correct, yeah. I mean, we're just starting the PR build-up at the moment, but there was going to be, you know, quite a few features here, there and everywhere, and we'll be previewing some of the music, you know, on and off. So anybody who comes around our Facebook pages and website and things is going to be able to hear a little bit of what we've done. And time flies. It won't be long.
No, not indeed.
And,
Well, Chris...
we've got Christmas in the way first, certainly.
Oh, you had to go and say the C word.
Yeah, oh, sorry, mate.
Well, give my best regards to the rest of the guys, Chris, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
Certainly will. Thank you very much once again. It's lovely to speak to you, mate.
Cheers, Chris.
Cheers now. Bye.